Welcome to All Things Well, where we make wellness practical for every day. I'm Tamara Jackson, your host. Here we explore wellness in all forms: emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, creative, and relational, through conversations that inform, inspire, and encourage. Because being well isn't one thing, it's all the things. Today's conversation centers around something deeply connected to our well-being: home. Not just the physical structure, but the mindset, preparation, stability, and emotional wellness connected to renting, buying, and creating spaces where we truly feel safe and grounded. Joining me today is Fareeda Stokes, a real estate professional, business owner, and educator who has not only built her own real estate company, Harkes Realty and Associates, but also recently opened a school to train and mentor future real estate professionals. Together, we'll talk about financial wellness, the emotional side of housing decisions, and what people should consider mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as they prepare for the next chapter. Whether you're dreaming of ownership, navigating renting, rebuilding financially, or simply trying to create peace where you are, this conversation is for you. Welcome to All Things Well. Welcome, Fareeda.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So I gave a little intro to, who you are, but take 30 seconds or so and let the audience know who you are and what you're about.
Okay. So, as you said, I am a real estate professional. I'm actually a real estate broker licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I enjoy teaching people. I enjoy helping people get to the next level of their journey, especially financially. So many times we talk about getting a home, and I have actually expanded my services to not only help people with getting into the industry, but after purchasing properties, helping them with securing their properties. And what I mean by that is we always talk about generational wealth. How are we really doing that? How are we protecting the assets that we work for? So for me, it's a whole holistic approach to building generational wealth. And that's just something that I enjoy doing.
Oh, that last part, we're going to have to talk on separate cover because that seems like the season I'm in. So yeah,
Okay.
I might have to tag you. Yeah. But for today and our listeners, so you work with real estate, leadership, and education. From your perspective, how does housing connect with overall wellness?
Well, in a number of ways. It provides stability. It provides consistency. It provides reliability. It provides love. It provides a safe space. And those are all places in our well-being that a home, should be able to provide. Being able to establish that for your family is extremely important. That's what, having a home does. Whether you're renting or buying, being able to create that safe space for yourself and for your family is important.
You said some vital things. You talked about stability and peace and safety. So what mindset should people have before they even begin looking for a home or apartment? Like what mindset, if somebody needs to prepare, right, for this move, what mindset should people be in?
It's always good to dream and dream big, but the most important thing is to have a proper financial mindset. So I have had so many people who watch HGTV and want the HGTV life, not understanding that sometimes we have champagne taste, but in the moment we might have beer money, right? And it's okay to be able to find something in beer money, right? That's perfectly fine. The point that I'm making is a lot of times people go into a home thinking that if they have a 30-year mortgage, they have to stay there for 30 years. So you have to get everything that you want and you need. You have to have a mindset of flexibility and being able to purchase what you can actually afford. our goal is never, you can get approved for a certain amount of money. However, if that doesn't fit into your financial well-being of being able to take care of your families, pay for your utilities, go on trips, do the things that you like to do to have a good quality of life, then we haven't done our job, right? So you definitely have to have a mindset of flexibility in what you achieve and have a financial mindset of how you want to live your life, how you want your quality of life to be, and making sure that your home fits into that structure.
I love that answer. It reminds me of the people who, for instance, they plan for the wedding, but not the marriage. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a weird analogy, but it's the truth. They want all this grandiose things and everything. They plan for that day, those hours. But then one comes the debt behind it, right? The other
Right.
things that attach to it, and just what it means to become one with someone, right?
Right.
So I appreciate what you're saying. Like, dream, yes, but you don't want to be house poor. At least I know when you was helping me, for instance, with my find my place, I didn't want to be house poor. I was clear about that. I
Mm-hmm.
knew I was ready to get out of the renting space, but I knew I did not want to be house poor.
Right. And you would be surprised on how many people want to live the facade. The house looks beautiful on the inside, but they can't even afford the furniture on the outside to make it a home, you know? So those are the types of conversations we need to have. And again, understanding that you don't have to be in your home for 30 years. As time goes on, you develop equity in your home. You can sell your home, use the money that you made by living in the home and use that to put down as a down payment for another property. So
Mhm,
you can move
mhm.
up in your dream if you're not able to acquire it right now.
That is a great transition to the next question that I have for you, because we've been inadvertently talking about that already. But how do fear, pressure, or even comparison, impact housing decisions?
In a number of ways. I'm just being mindful of what I say because I don't know who's actually going to be listening to this. And I want someone to say, she's talking about me. But
Mm,
I've had situations where people want to make appearances for their family.
yeah.
They want to appear that they're doing better than they are. And what better way to do that than to have a big, grandiose home
Mm,
and you have folks over and you can show off what you do. And that's a lot of pressure. you know
mhm.
it,
Absolutely.
it's a whole lot of pressure.
Mhm,
But it goes beyond, I think, just having a home. I think it's something that people deal with in other aspects of their lives, but
yes.
the way that they
Mhm,
want to show it
mhm.
is what you can tangibly see.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a home is that, social media is that,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
it's not about, in my opinion, it's not about how you can impress others, but having that
mm,
pressure on
mhm.
yourself could really put you in a situation that you don't want to be in.
Yeah, and particularly when we're talking about home buying,
Hmm.
that can lead to a deficit that is just, it takes years, if ever, you get out of it,
Right.
right? So I agree with you totally.
And so what I do and what I train my agents to do is to do a buyer consultation up front. So
Mhm,
again, you might be approved for a certain amount of money, but it doesn't mean you have to spend that. Let's have these
mhm,
conversations about what will make this comfortable for you so that again you can
mhm,
have that quality of life. And part of that consultation is knowing up front, what is it that your monthly payment is going to be if you purchase a
mhm,
house at this amount?
mhm,
How much money
mhm,
will you need to bring to the table if you don't qualify for down payment assistance or closing cost assistance or can't get concessions from the seller? Do you
mhm.
have this money to do this? And if you do, will it deplete your savings? Because we're also not trying to have you get into a house and then now you don't have any monies to buy furniture or do the things
Absolutely.
to furnish the house. So it's looking at all of that, also having people understand that there's money that needs to be used during the process. So a
Mhm,
lot of times people don't think about inspections and escrow deposits and paying for
mhm.
appraisals and paying for your insurance up
And
front.
it goes up quickly. It
It goes
racks
up
up
quickly.
quickly. Yes, it
Yes,
does. Yes, it
yes.
does.
So having that numbers conversation up front is so important, and that helps alleviate some of the pressure and knowing really what can you do versus what
Yeah,
you
yeah,
might be
yeah.
expected to do.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
that makes a lot of sense. You talk about the different fees and things attached, right? So it's not just buying the house, right? It's all of the things that are attached to even being able to buy the house. So what does financial wellness really mean when you're preparing to rent or buy a house, quite frankly?
Understanding your finances, knowing what your budget is, and being able to have some structure in following your budget. So
Mm,
I
mhm,
teach financial literacy classes,
mm,
and when I have people write down where their money comes in and where it goes out, people
mhm.
don't realize how much money they spend on Amazon, right? They know the boxes are
Ooh,
coming,
you
but
hurting
they don't
people. You
realize.
hurting people.
But we have to have a
Mhm,
handle
mhm,
on
mhm,
where's our money going,
mhm.
and understanding that being financially well is
Yeah.
having a handle on that, having an understanding, having a knowledge of it. So as I
Mhm,
mentioned earlier, expanding my services, and financial literacy consultations are one of the things that I do. And I
mhm.
did have someone call in who said, I make good money, but I don't know where my money goes. That's not
Yeah.
financial wellness because you have no clue. You know, you have enough that comes in to spend the money that you want, that you on the things that you want.
Mhm.
But being able to create a budget, being able to stick to something, and then not only that, but understanding that you also have to learn how to pay yourself.
Ooh, talk
You
more about that one.
you have to
Talk
be able
more
to pay
about that.
yourself.
Mhm.
We spend a lot of time and money on tangible things, but we're not looking at how we're paying ourselves of a paycheck. How much are you allocating it to an investment towards your retirement? How much are you allocating
Mhm,
towards, having a rainy day savings? How
mhm,
much are you allocating to creating an investment opportunity for yourself where your money is making money for you and you're not having to do anything with it?
yeah, that passive income is important.
hmm And
Mhm,
in passive, and not only in the sense of being able to purchase investment opportunities, but where is your money sitting and
mhm,
how is it
mhm,
earning for you at a
mhm.
rate that is more than what the banks are offering, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Mhm.
being able to have these types of conversations, and first comes literacy before we can really delve into the
Absolutely.
wellness. Mhm.
Absolutely. I know we've been talking a lot in terms of like home ownership. But I'm wondering, how can renters also build like financial wellness for long-term stability? Because some people don't want to purchase homes, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
how can a renter still have a healthy mindset as it relates to renting and just what they want for themselves long term?
I think it's still the same concept,
Mhm,
in terms of being able to, know where you stand, what you can afford.
mhm,
But the
mhm.
other thing that is very important that I didn't touch on is understanding credit. So what's happening
Mm,
so often,
mhm,
especially well, we know you need to have acceptable credit to get approved for a mortgage. But
mhm.
what's happening in the rental world is a lot of landlords are looking at people's credit scores to determine their feasibility, or their ability rather,
Mhm,
to
mhm,
pay the rent. I have mixed feelings about that because some,
mhm.
communities don't operate in credit
Yeah,
and
yeah.
some do. So when it comes to people having quality housing and it's, predicated on your credit score,
Mhm, mhm.
that could be an issue. So I
Mm.
think for renters, especially being able to allow them more flexibility in their options, being mindful of how credit works and how it works in their favor, even if they're not buying a home.
You say something so powerful, and it actually reminded me of an article that I came across recently. I think it's Detroit. There's a group of women suing a particular landlord or housing agency
hmm
because they say that they went for an apartment, is in a nicer area and such. But when they learned that they had housing vouchers, for instance, they said, oh, they're not available, right? Those properties are no longer available. So they got somebody to perp like they're interested, and they got to see those same properties and stuff like that. So they, in essence, were available. And I hear particularly in that area, and again, I'm thinking it was Detroit, that it's illegal for a landlord to deny someone housing based on having a housing voucher.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering, kind of, what are your thoughts, and what advice would you give to someone who feels discouraged in the current housing market? Because we know rents are really high,
Mm-hmm.
even for, unfortunately, the areas that we would, that are not the safest, is still very high. So
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to the people who are feeling discouraged?
Whew. So it's so funny because just last week I did a rant on Facebook.
Oh, did you?
I did. I really did. I said it's time for people to start fighting back because
Mm-hmm.
at that time, I had a client who had a 699 credit score. He works. But as soon as it got to how will the rent get paid, and I mentioned Section 8, it became the uhs and the ahs, right, on why his application
Wow.
couldn't be accepted. And it's part of fair
Mm-hmm.
housing. And people think fair housing just has to deal with discrimination against
Mm-hmm.
gender or,
Mm-hmm.
race or nationality or sexual
Mm-hmm.
orientation. It also, depending on the state that you're in, could also be about receiving government assistance. So,
Wow. Okay.
yeah. And so I encourage people to
Mm-hmm.
file a complaint with in New Jersey, where we're based.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're listening to this and you're in another state, you can go to your civil rights organization and file a bias complaint for fair housing. Now, granted, does that mean that you'll get the house? Maybe, maybe not, but your voice needs to be heard. People's
Mm-hmm.
voices need to be heard, and people are getting discouraged out here. So, with that same
Mm-hmm.
client that I'm mentioning, he and his family got so discouraged that they stopped looking. And it's
That's
like, he
terrible.
worked
Yeah.
so hard
Mm-hmm.
to get his
Mm-hmm.
credit score up and he
Mm-hmm.
supports his family with the job. But as you said, rents are so high that being
Yes.
able to get a supplement in some way is helpful to so many families. But because people have biases or have heard stories or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
not understanding how the law works, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's frustrating. And when you're working in this industry and you have colleagues who don't also understand the importance of, fair housing and educating their clients and all of that great stuff, it becomes even more discouraging. So going back to your question on how to, I guess, keep their heads up in this,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, you got to keep going, but you also have to make your voice heard. You have to make your voice heard because the only way that things are going to change is if our experiences are brought to the forefront
Mm-hmm.
and people who are discriminating against others for this particular reason, once they start getting those fines and understanding that this is a, discriminatory act, things will change.
I
So,
really like you pushing, well, encouraging. I'm not going to say pushing, encouraging, keeping it in a space of wellness, encouraging people to advocate for themselves. Because I think so often we get so used to being the last man out or last woman out that we just get tired of fighting. And it's fair, right? Who wants to be
mhm,
fighting all the time?
right.
But everybody, in my opinion, deserves safety,
Hmm.
whatever that means for them, and deserves to, rise and put their head down in a space where they're not constantly on edge, or it's a war zone, or, just the various dynamics. Everybody deserves safety
Right.
and peace and joy, and all of that stuff. So
Mhm.
doesn't have to be the American dream the way it has been fed to us, picket fence and dogs and two and a half children or whatever the quarter
Right.
is, but safety, peace,
Hmm.
stability, all those words that you started off speaking about, That's
Mhm.
important. A
Mhm.
sense of community, healthy
Right.
community.
Healthy
Yeah,
community. Right.
exactly.
Yep. And as I mentioned, in terms of having your voice heard, I was just on a call right before we started the interview
Mhm.
and understanding that sometimes the fight isn't always for us. We don't realize that we are making history when we're in the trenches.
Absolutely.
So your voice and your
Mhm.
story could help the next person, and that
Yeah,
could be just as impactful as if it were you. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So, hopefully, lighter, going to a lighter space for a little
Hmm.
bit, at least for a little bit.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. I get
No,
passionate about this.
no, this is, but yeah, this is your wheelhouse. You're supposed to. So,
Hmm.
no worries. In your experience, what makes a space truly feel like home?
So I am a mom of four. Well, they're no longer children, they're young adults, but as they were
Mhm,
growing up,
mhm,
that was something that was important for me, for them to
mhm,
feel that they're home. And what that meant is allowing them to be who they are and who they are.
mhm, mhm.
And me understanding that their journey isn't my journey, no matter what
That's a
I
word for
had
all
these
us
visions
parents.
are.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
But
Mhm,
supporting them in whatever their journey is.
mhm,
So, that's home. Home is a place where people feel they should feel safe. They should feel routine in a way
yes, yes. No, yeah.
because that creates consistency and
Mhm.
a place where you could just, take your shoes off, put your feet up on the couch and watch television without anybody bothering you. You being in your space. So get home, yeah, just allowing you to be who you are in this time that you're in and being able to be supported in that way.
Mm. I love that answer. I love that answer. What have you learned about people, resilience, and wellness through your work in real estate?
I have learned that people are capable of doing way more than they think they are able to do.
Mhm.
When you asked that question, it reminded me of a client who I met her because she was living in a housing project and I was teaching financial literacy classes for about 8 to 10 weeks. And
Mhm.
she was at a point in the very beginning where she wanted to learn, but she didn't think that she was capable
Mm.
of doing anything beyond what she did. And, during the course of that class, we would talk about all kinds of stuff. And, she made some revelations about herself and her children. And then within about 6 months after the class ended, 6 to 9 months, she bought a house.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she bought a house, and her
That
son
is
said
awesome.
to her,
Mhm.
"Mom, I am so proud of you."
Mhm.
And so when we talk about like wellness in our lives, we encounter so much stuff that we
Yeah.
start to have self talk. We are looking
Mhm.
at what others are thinking. We're
Mhm.
concerned about all this other stuff that we
Mhm.
unconsciously or subconsciously limit ourselves.
Mhm.
And sometimes we just have to be beacons of light for others to allow them to see what they're capable of. And
Yes,
then
yes.
that reassurance from her son, who was 12 at the time, but he was watching her daughter too, watching her. And
Mm.
she said, when she said that, he said, "Mom, I am so proud of you." She just knew that what she did was worth it. So again, and she was homeless at one point too. So we're talking
Wow.
about
Mhm.
resilience and
Mhm.
being able
Mhm.
to, move forward and do what you need to do
Mhm.
for yourself and for your family. I'm
Mhm.
not sure if that answered the question, but when you asked
No,
that,
it
I
totally,
immediately thought of
yeah.
her. I immediately thought of her.
Not only did they answer the question, you were able to provide us with somebody tangible, even though we don't know her, but we all know someone who has, quote unquote, beat the odds, right?
Hmm.
Or even if the odds were, getting over limited beliefs, because that's basically what, at least in my field, what we would call it, those limited beliefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been in this situation for so long. I think, this reality that I'm living, that is the only reality that I know. And that is my comfort zone, even though it brings me discomfort, right? So
Mm-hmm.
just getting past those limiting beliefs. So that, no, that's beautiful. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that for
Yeah.
that individual and that family.
When you talked about a safe place to live and all that, the house that she had gotten at that time, it was, pretty much redone. It was
Mm-hmm.
something she can afford.
Mm-hmm.
And and it created a different environment for her children, and they're thriving in a different way than
Yeah.
what she thought she was limited to.
Yeah.
And so I think that it contributed overall to the wellness of the family in that situation. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is
Mm-hmm.
awesome. That is totally awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's talk a little bit about like entrepreneurship and mentorship.
Ooh.
Um, so you have now opened a school to train future real estate professionals. What is the
Correct.
mindset that you hope your students develop beyond sales? Because I hear everything that you have said is beyond sales. This is not just, hey, let me earn this commission. So, yeah, what mindset do you hope that they develop?
A few things. A community mindset, understanding that they are servicing people, um,
Mm-hmm.
and a guidance mindset,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that as much as people have access to the internet, they still need someone to guide them on the process. They need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. It's not a 9 to 5. So nobody's going to sit and tell you, you must do this and have this done by a certain time,
Mm-hmm.
because you're reporting it to yourself. So you have to be accountable to yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
have to. And understanding that, yes, you have mentors and you have brokers who, guide you, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, you got to be able to answer to yourself and fit in, time management properly so that you are doing the things that you need to do. The other mindset that they need to have, that I would want for them to walk out, is if they're going to grow a successful business, relationships and communication are key. You cannot be a secret agent. um, or just think that all your family and friends are going to work with you, because they're not.
And that goes for any entrepreneur.
Oh my Lord.
That's a whole nother podcast.
You cannot walk in with the expectation that I have
Mm-mm.
2,000 family and friends and they're all going to use me. Nope.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
from the entrepreneur reality, you have
Mm-hmm.
to understand that it's a rite of passage. The first time that happens, you know
Mm-hmm.
that you're not the only one, but you got to understand that communication and networking and being able to do it scared. Sometimes people are like, they need to know all this stuff. You're learning in your experience. And if you don't step out there to start to create experiences for yourself, it's going to be very, very difficult.
I totally agree. I tell my clients all the time, I said sometimes we have to move forward even when our knees are shaking. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean that. I mean that,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And
And
it's probably more that than when you feel like super confident. It doesn't mean that you're not confident, but it's just going into anything new. Yeah, there is a level of anxiety that comes with that. And I think I would even dare to say healthy fear.
mm-hmm.
Even if it's not fear, a healthy pause, are concerned. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And none of us knows what's around the corner, but we can't let that paralyze us. We got to
Yeah.
keep going. Even if you are, shuffling your feet along, you're still moving. You just
Mm-hmm.
can't get stuck in where you are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Earlier, you spoke about like the financial literacy classes that you offered in the past and stuff. As you have grown, how has your impact and commitment to the community at large that may not be at the place of purchasing a house right now or whatever, but what has your give back been? How has it expanded? I guess that's what I'm more asking.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm about educating. So we do seminars. We recently hosted one for seniors where we're talking about, how to handle these calls from these people who are trying to buy your home after you've been there for 40, 50 years. That was a really successful one. We have, of course, we do first time home buyers, but we also do seminars for people who own their homes. How do you use the equity in your home to advance yourself? Generational wealth is a buzzword, but we're not really talking about how to create it. And
Yeah, yeah.
so when I got into the industry, it was about, and this was almost 25 years ago, which is wild. But at that time, I was writing articles on how to prepare for home ownership and how you could become a homeowner and all that great stuff. And then as time progressed, I realized that there's a lot of financial literacy that is not happening. I hear a lot, it should be taught in schools or it should be taught here. And I understand why people think it should be taught in schools, because if we don't know it at home, then how can we teach it, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
I'm bringing those conversations into households where people are understanding how, whether it's the basics or if you have to advance it in some kind of way. So that's important. As I mentioned, we're also, how the generational wealth is about protecting what you've built. So, whether it's through insurance, wills, trusts, investment opportunities, those are the things that we need to talk about and that I do talk about. So that's how it's expanded. And I did mention earlier that offering financial literacy one-on-one consultations with people too is something that I'm pushing, because again, if we don't know it, how are we passing it down?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And our kids only learn what they see, or if they've been exposed to it outside of what we haven't, been able to give them. So how can we bring this? So I do seminars in schools just to,
That's
you know,
nice. Okay.
yeah, I go talk to students, plant the seed. They're not ready now, but start planting seeds, because what tends to happen is the kids graduate from high school, and then next thing you know, they wake up and they're 25, 26, 30 years old, and they're living on their own, and they have not had any of the basics that they need to understand how to sustain. So, yes, planting seeds is very important to me as well.
You're right. That's vital. I'm glad that you're doing work with seniors, because we know that they're just often the target of a lot of predatory behavior. And I love the fact that you're going into schools. Heck, I say go lower. you know, I know I started having those conversations with my son. He just turned 11, but I started having those conversations with him and actually have had books for him to read and exercises for them to do, because I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have that growing up. And I thank God every day that, one, he's able to have the life that I didn't necessarily have, and he has parents that have a little something, something, whereas like he's not learning it as an adult,
Right.
Basically. I mean, obviously he's going to have his own maturation process. We all do, and we have to, right? That's part of growing up. But to, like you said, plant those seeds or instill stuff in early. Like he said, he got money for his birthday. And he was like, I said, well, do you want something? Is there something that, a store or anything that you want me to bring? It's like, no, I graduate next month. I want to save my money to graduation. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You know what I mean? So I love the fact that he can get something and it not burn a hole in his hand,
Right.
as the elders used to say. It's burn a
Yeah.
hole in the hand.
It's funny because my children are, oh goodness, how old are they now? One will be 20, is almost 27, 25, 21, and 20. And so I was like, listen, the stuff that I know now I definitely didn't know at your age. So this is what I need you to start doing because,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm being very honest, we do okay for ourselves, but I wasn't like stacking up when I was in my 20s and 30s. We didn't even start really paying attention until I was like late 30s, early 40s. And it's never too late to start. I want
Yeah.
to put that out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we were living, taking care of these kids, living, taking care of these kids. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I told them, my husband and I are not grandparents yet. So I told them, when we were y'all age, we had like two or three of y'all at that time. So,
Mm-hmm.
but y'all
Mm-hmm.
don't have that. So, start preparing for yourself. And one day I told them when they graduate high school, one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be 25, and then you're going to be 30, and then you're going to be 50. Like it
Mm-hmm.
goes by that fast.
It does. It truly does.
And so every now and again, my oldest one, they all do, but my oldest one is like, I'm glad that you are telling us about this now. And this is what I'm doing. And he's preparing, they're all preparing themselves for
Excellent. Yeah.
life
Mm-hmm.
after, none of them, well, I was going to say none of them live at home, but three of them are about to come home by June 1st.
Woo, you got 2 weeks, girl.
Girl,
Okay.
oh my gosh, we were
Mm-hmm.
empty nesting for a minute, but I digress. But anyway, they're doing what they need to do to
Mm-hmm.
secure their futures because,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had to teach them. I didn't know those things when I was their age.
Yeah. Yeah. That's part of the depositing something more for the next generation. Sometimes people think that that's something tangible, and I guess it can turn into something tangible, but it's okay for it to start off as knowledge first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. All right. So, what is one thing you wish everyone understood about housing and wellness?
That's a good question. Understanding that your space, whether it's a rental or a house that you own,
Mm-hmm.
um, it should be your safe space. It should be your safe space. And if it's not your safe space, and in order for you to, have wellness, you got to create it in some way, whether that be having open lines of communication if you live with people about what contributes to your well being
Mm-hmm.
and how you're contributing to someone else's well being. I think communication is really it to create the space that you need to be. And if it's not, that, just get creative in how you need to create it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's good stuff. This is the portion of the show where it's kind of like fast answers, fast answers.
Okay.
Like fill in the blanks.
Okay.
All right. So a healthy home environment feels like
Chocolate chip cookies baking in the oven.
mm, one way to protect wellness while pursuing success is
Staying grounded and praying.
peace in my home looks like.
I'm putting in the word feel. But I was going to say peace in my home feels like joy, but peace in what it looks like,
Mm-hmm.
it looks like a sunset on a summer's day.
Mm.
That's what it looks like.
Today, I'm reminded that home is.
Where the heart is.
Mm. All right, Miss Fareeda, give the audience your socials. How can listeners get in contact with you?
Awesome. So the real estate company is Harkes Realty and Associates. That's Harkes Realty and Associates. We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, all of those. And we are located in Ewing, New Jersey. Our phone number is 609-337-4200. And we're licensed in Pennsylvania as well. For the real estate school, that's called Pro Realty Academy. And we are on Instagram and TikTok. We're still expanding that, but our website is the same, prorealtyacademy.com, if you ever wanted to just check out any upcoming classes, or if you wanted to take self-directed classes where you can do them at your pace, we have options for that as well.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good stuff today. So, whether you're renting, buying, rebuilding, or simply dreaming about what's next, wellness includes having space where you can breathe, feel safe, and be at peace. This is All Things Well, where we hold space for the conversations that shape our lives, mind, body, spirit, and yes, even home. You be easy.
Thank you for spending this time with us on All Things Well. As you go about your day, I hope something from today's conversation stays with you, encourages you, or invites you to care for yourself in a new way. Remember, being well isn't one thing, it's all the things. Until next time, may your hope be full and may you be well.